trying to win in the early game. So the first thing that I like to talk about in early game is invades. Um, there's no real Bible on invade, not invade. Some people say always invade. Some people say don't invade. Too risky. Don't want to have an early disadvantage. All that wonderful stuff. So here's what you need to know about invades. No matter what, everyone has to be on the same page. If you have three people walking into the enemy jungle, and two people are just like sitting at fountain, you probably don't want to do that in main because you never know who's going to show up out of the fog of war, and you never know if it's going to screw you over. So always have everyone on the same page, whether it be invade or not invade. If not everyone's not on the same page, do not invade. Do not follow these people. It doesn't matter if they get caught. I'll go into that a bit soon, but honestly, if everyone isn't on the same page together, do not go for the invade. Um, so when you're invading, you generally want the person with CC to lead. Morgana binding, split crank hooks, thresh hooks, um, Irelia E, Ari Charm, Annie Stun. These are all very basic things that you need to understand when trying to invade. Um, if you the other thing is don't ever blow summoners in a level 1. It is a pretty big disadvantage as a laner and even as a jungler to blow your summoners at level 1 because now that's like a 5-minute flash, right? A 5-minute flash for first blood. And now you're back in lane, and you're playing a pretty immobile champion before 6. Let's say you're playing Ari, and you're playing a pretty immobile champion pre-6, and then you blue flash. Nobody else blue flash in that situation. Um, the enemy Annie proceeds to let you push the lane, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of the lane with no flash. You can only ward one side, and suddenly you have to play very paranoid and very unsafe, and it creates more issues than uh, than it did getting that extra 35-75 gold from first blood. So always let other people burn summoners for the kill. Don't burn your own summoners unless it's absolutely necessary. I'm not saying never, ever, ever blow summoners at level 1 because you might very well need to escape, to secure kills. But if it looks like it's going to be either even or slightly advantageous in your favor, slightly advantageous for you, you probably don't want to blow the summoner if you can help it. Um, um, and so just just attempt to play as safely as possible early on, even if you're invading. Um, and my other point is, outside of getting three kills, 4 kills on one person, um, first blood in invade fights are generally irrelevant. You're not a professional player. You kind of use your lead like some players can. The XP advantage is nice, and if you're able to jump your opponent with it, and they don't really understand it, awesome. That's something that you can do mechanically, and you might be able to snowball your lane off of it. We're looking to punish mistakes here, but generally, what happens is there's a random pick and a random kill where the enemy laner blows one summoner and you still get the kill. And the goal just doesn't really matter. So don't have a mentality where, oh man, we got first blood. We're totally in this game now. I can afford to play reckless and aggressive now. Absolutely not. Do not think like that. I know a lot of people in lower divisions feel this way, and let it get in their head. They now have a quote unquote lead in the game. So just don't let it get into your head outside of getting a level 1 quadra. In which case, buy the needle to large rod and run over your opponent over and over and over and over and over again. Any questions about invades?
I have 2.
Okay, go ahead.
One, should we be talking about invades in the pregame chat lobby,
No,
or
no need.
actually once people are loading in?
Once people are loading in, because what happens is when you talk about it in the pregame lobby is one person might be AFK for the entire situation. Whoa. Okay. So one person might be AFK, and so they don't see any of this chat, and they're like, and then they get there at 1:30 after picking their champion because they had to like go do something, they had to let out their dog or something, and they're like, oh hey guys, what's going on? What the hell, man? How did you get 4-0'd? And you're like, well, guy, we were all talking in Champions Select about that stuff, and it creates this unnecessary circle jerk. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. So like, don't talk about it in pregame. If like, just use pings in the beginning of the game, like spam ping things and stuff like that. And if you notice that someone's missing, like ping everyone off and all that stuff. What's your other question?
The other question was, you were saying how first blood is irrelevant, but would you consider putting the opponent on tilt relevant, or is it not worth it because you're also putting your teammates into the mentality that they're ahead and they're really not?
Yeah. So the psychological aspect of the enemy team obviously comes into effect every so often, right? Like especially like let's say you lose a game with player 420 Ezreal main no scope, all that stuff. So let's say you lose a game with him because he like throws the game, right? And then next game you manage to catch him out in the middle of the river, and he's like, "Shit, team, god damn it, you're so fucking bad. I'm gonna destroy you this game." Obviously, this guy's on tilt. Obviously, you should put a little bit more pressure on him. If there are clear signals of your opponent being on tilt, okay, we can start using that. We can that's the exposing and looking for weaknesses in the opponent. I'm about to get into that rather shortly. So, tilt can affect a player. Absolutely, that's more than fine. As long as you recognize it, and just don't be like in all chat like, "You're on tilt now, aren't you? You're on tilt, Mr. Krabs. Do you feel the tilt now, Mr. Krabs?" You know, all that stuff. No reason to like all chats stuff like that. You just look like a douchebag, and if they actually like destroy you, you look even dumber. Does that cover it?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Oops. All right, so we're going to talk about now we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses early. So another reason I went over, yeah, I'm retarded. Anyway, so we're gonna go over strengths and weaknesses early game. So another reason that I like to have a champion for players is so they understand and can start learning how to play their champions and when they're strong, when they're weak, and when they're weak against like certain matchups. This is where meta comes into play. Um, if you're playing Annie every game, you should know the Victor matchup, you should know the Azir matchup, you should know the Ari matchup, you should know the Diana matchup, and that comes from routine play, that comes from consistent play, and understanding what your champion does. You have a 1.5 second stun on your on every fifth spell. So you can like abuse that. Say level 1 and like get a free stun off with W if you're playing support. Um, or you can use the stun as you're farming with Q to walk up and pressure the enemy mid laner. And if they never let you, they never eat a stun. That means you get free lane pressure and lane control. Very simple things that like you need to always have it in the back of your head and understand. Diana destroys Annie at level 6 unless she has her stun up, and the way of winning that matchup is harassing her down. And when when you force Diana's hand and finally force her go in, force her all in, she's going to go for it when she thinks you don't have stun up, and then you press EWR and suddenly your stun's up and she's completely destroyed. That's how you win the matchup. Post 6. These are things you have to keep in mind. Level 1s, level 2s, level 3s. Understanding how your abilities work together. Understanding that you probably on Victor, you probably don't want to take Gravity Field at level 3. Very basic research and understanding of things like this are very important to grinding out solo queue on your now set pool of champions. So it's a matter of practice, it's a matter of discipline, and it's a matter of doing a bit of it's a matter of doing a bit of research on your free time when you're not playing the game. And So the next thing I want to go over is jungler pressure. You don't want to be ganked. Nobody wants to be ganked, as I'm very well aware. So generally, the time you want to watch out for, you want to ward and watch out for is around like 3 minutes, 3:30. Obviously, junglers can play a very different game. They can go for the enemy jungler. They can go for a level 2 gank. They can clear their entire bottom side of the jungle, then go gank bottom lane instead of running through the second buff. So this number is obviously not concrete. It's just understanding what time is a jungler going to come out of the jungle with both buffs, assuming they took a small count beforehand, and try and gank a lane. Around 3:30, 3:15. That's when you're looking to see the enemy jungler maybe wander into your lane. This applies more to top and mid rather than bottom, because But another aspect of the game is the 1 minute 50 second to 2 minute classic bot. I want to snowball them gang. I'm sure the support mains in chat in this group have seen it one too many times where you're not prepared for it, and you push up the lane and the jungler's there and you're just like, God damn it, we lost our summoners and maybe even died. So understanding what the jungler has the capability of doing is very important. This comes from routine play. This comes from being aware of the map and having good map awareness, and it's a skill that you develop over time as long as you're looking for it. So another thing to look for is ward timings. When wards are going to expire. This especially applies to junglers. If someone calls out a ward or you see someone ward, time it in chat so you know that the trinket wards are only up for a minute. Greens are up for, believe it's 3 minutes, and pinks are up indefinitely. So having a good idea of when wards are being placed or when they're going down, and generally as the laners will know when they're placed down. And so don't be lazy about telling your jungler when the ward is, and don't be lazy about telling them when it expires too. I see a lot of people time wards and not say anything when the ward expires. You should be spam pinging assistants that like the ward's about to expire in about 20 seconds. Come gank right now. If the jungler is smart, they realize how free and easy that is, and it can translate into a very simple kill. Obviously, you want to dodge the ward just as it expires, and that's obviously a skill you need to develop. But it's a very valuable one at that. If we're talking like lower divisions, like bronze, silver, all that stuff, like sometimes they're just not going to ward, and you get to gank every lane for free. But I've already talked to those people in those divisions about how you honestly are looking to farm up and not make risky plays that could throw the game. How if you play consistently, how if you play to make mistakes and punish the enemy jungler, you will see a much better return on your investment, rather than trying to make early pressure happen. So for lower division junglers, don't worry about early game pressure. Don't just farm up. And people complain, just like mute them. They shouldn't have died. It's pretty impossible. It's pretty impossible to die when the enemy laner has no idea what's going on as well. I promise you. When it's like watching two people with like a box, like a cone on their head, and they only see the minions. They only see the minions and maybe the enemy laner. That's all they see. So I'm sure I'm sure both players will have no idea that a jungler is in their lane if this low down. I've seen it many times. I've seen it so many times I can't even count at this point. This is what happens in those divisions. So, higher division players, we're talking Platinum 5 plus. You need to be aware of the possibilities, and anything below, like I'd say, like Gold 5, don't worry about early game pressure. For the most part, just be aware that it might happen on the off chance that like there's like a Smurf on the enemy team, or an